I mean, I'm normally best at describing real life circumstances. So this morning I was doing notes on a mix, and the producer asked to turn. This is as close to perfect of an example as I can come up with. It just happened. Command, like, this is all sounding great. Can we try the kick drum up 1.5 dB and the snare down 2 dB? And I was like, whoa, kick drum up 1.5 dB. And the way we mix these days, close to zero, like, as you know, peak is zero basically, and LUFS is whatever. And we've already talked about the differences there. I was like, sure, like, if that's what you want to hear, like, let's do it. I think I was able to get it up 1 dB without it distorting, but it started clamping down the mix, and like I could hear it move. But I'm like, all right, well, let's see what he thinks. I sent it, and producer goes, oh shit, yeah, now it sounds like it's hitting the compressor or limiter or something too hard. I'm like, yes, like that's obvious, but I'm not going to make that call if someone wants to hear their kick drum up. So where I come at gain staging is from Headroom, right? So the kick, sometimes
Headroom being, let's just define as we go, and I'll stop you if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Headroom is the room between where you're at and the peak level of, let's say, zero. How much room you have to go up. Or is it conceptually anything? Headroom between where you're at and something compressing too much.
What's left before zero from wherever? I mean, you have headroom in your life, you know, within a day, right? You have like 24 hours. The closest you get, closer to get to sleep.
Headroom is how much you have left above your head before you hit the ceiling. I mean, that's where it comes from, right? The ceiling being zero. So how much room you have above the current level of any particular thing. Yeah.
So once I turn it up the way he asked, it started clamping the mix down. So it's starting to distort subtly. It's starting to compress differently than we had in the mix up to this point. And now the groove is going to change. Things are going to start to change. And his overall thought was, oh, well, now that the balances are where I want it, how about we just lower everything? I was like, oh, what a great note. So we just take everything down about a dB or two, created headroom, and now transits are starting to pop. It sounds less compressed. It starts to groove harder. Mix is done, right? So I could have just done that on the next pass. I could have taken all the faders down and left, besides the kick, and left it where it was at. And he might have said the same thing, but there's so much change that he would have noticed that's different than if he had to come to that with his own realization of, okay, now because the kick is up, you can see the train of events that occurred there. But I'm supposed to know how much headroom and know my gain staging. So when that note is given to me, I know how it's going to affect the mix. So I knew exactly what was going to happen there. So I understood the gain staging. And what I'd like to get across today is kind of understanding gain staging, not necessarily all the specifics on how to do, because I can't tell you put your kick at -6 because I'd be a hypocrite, because today on a pop mix I'm doing, the one that I don't really like very much, the kick is hitting at 0. But the rough mix and the vibe of it, everything's ducking on the kick, and not like a side chain. It sounds like a limiter being hit.
On the master bus.
On the master bus. So that's the vibe. And no mixer or producer or finisher or anything wants to be the vibe killer of a record, ever. We want to either enhance vibe or leave vibe. So that's why I get hired. I don't ruin people's vibes. I enhance things appropriately within the headroom that I am either given or give myself.